Welcome. I'm Keith Rowe with the Vital Healing Podcast. Each week, I share one of my Substack posts, and we explore what healing, presence, and coming back to ourselves can actually look like. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Today, I'll be sharing a piece called The Way Back to Myself, and it all starts with a flute. The other morning, I spent a couple of hours with the Native American style flute. No audience and no expectations. Just breath and the instrument and whatever wanted to come through. There's something about the Native American style flute that's been really good for me. It's simple enough that I can explore it without needing everything to sound right. And if I hit a note that doesn't belong or sound good to me, I can easily just place my finger back down and move along. It's no big deal. And the flute has given me room to make mistakes. And that room has helped me find a foundation that I can build on. I think a lot of us carry tension around getting things right. If we're not careful, we learn early that mistakes are bad, and that learning can stay with us in our minds and in our bodies, even when we can't trace back where it may have come from. And the flute has been one small way that I've been unlearning that. This piece is a longer version of that journey. It touches on anxiety and 30 years of dependency on medication, and a fear of flying that literally kept me grounded for nearly 2 decades. But really what it's about is how the right practices, the ones that actually support us, can help us find our way out of the patterns that we may have thought we'd be stuck in forever. And so what I'm offering isn't a quick fix. It's a look into what it took for me to build a place inside myself where I could finally feel safe again. So let's begin. The way back to myself. The other morning, I spent a couple of hours playing the Native American style flute. It was freeing to explore without needing everything to sound perfect. The flute gives me room to breathe and room to make mistakes. And when I play a note that doesn't belong, I can place my finger back down and find my way again. And there's a safety in the simplicity of the instrument. While it can sound deep and profound, it also allows me to stay within a scale that invites improvisation. And it lets me step outside my head and follow whatever wants to flow through me. And as I played, I remembered a time in my life when I didn't feel that kind of space or safety inside myself. My anxiety lived in my body, and even very simple things could set off a spiral that felt impossible to stop. And it shaped how I moved through the world long before I understood really what was happening. At 16, I began seeing a psychiatrist who was trying to help me manage the constant anxiety. Among other things, he prescribed Xanax and assured me that it was safe and effective. In many ways, it did help me function, but I couldn't see how deeply it would weave itself into my life or how long it would take me before I could trust my own nervous system again. My fear of flying was one expression of that deeper pattern. I avoided planes for almost 20 years. Just imagining the walk down the aisle to my seat would send my body into a reaction before my mind even had a chance to think about it. It wasn't about logic. It was the simple truth that I really didn't know how to stay with myself long enough and support myself through the fear that I was feeling. And things began to shift around 2019 when I discovered breathwork. I had never known a practice before that could reach me the way that it did. And breathwork, it helped me to feel my body again. And it gave me enough room in my mind to begin releasing patterns that were no longer helping me. And so after breathwork helped me begin opening up, Qigong and walking meditation began to help me move and to trust my body again. And as I walked, I began paying more attention to the land and the things around me, the trees and the animals, and the more than human world that holds us all. And this time in the woods helped me begin to rewild my mind. And it reminded me that I belonged to something much larger and much steadier than my fear. And over time, these embodied practices helped me loosen my dependency on Xanax until I was able to step away from it completely in late 2024 after around 30 years of use. And these practices also gave me the steadiness that I needed to fly again. My first flight after nearly 2 decades was a long one. It was to Amsterdam for the Global Inspiration Conference. And that's a gathering of breath workers from around the world. And it wasn't a small step. It was a huge leap that the old version of me could never have imagined. Since then, I've flown many times, and with a steadiness and confidence that almost surprises me each time. The journey back to myself also taught me something important about self-care. I used to think that it was mostly about comfort. And what I've learned is that real self-care is something more loving and supportive than that. It's not about avoiding discomfort. It's about learning to stay with ourselves in new ways. Sometimes it may ask us to sit in places that once overwhelmed us, not as an act of force, but as a way of supporting ourselves with love. And even when it feels uncomfortable, our practices are holding us as we meet what needs our attention. Self-care is also about tenderness. It can be a warm bath with Epsom salt, or a massage to help the body settle. Or it can also simply be taking it easy on a quiet morning without rushing out into your day. And still, complete self-care is gentleness and courage working together. It's leaning into discomfort when that is what's healing us, and also leaning into delight when that is what is nourishing us. There are many paths that help us return to ourselves. Breathwork showed me what healing could look like, and time on the land helped me build a sanctuary of my own. And now, even the simple act of playing a flute has become another way of remembering that it is safe to explore and to learn. So if your inner world feels unsettled or uncertain, you might begin with something small, maybe a deep breath into your belly, or a slow, mindful walk. These are 2 things that don't ask us to perform. They only ask us to listen. The practices that steady us don't need to be elaborate. They only need to help us return to a place inside that knows how to breathe and to feel safe again. What has helped me over the years is giving myself permission to stay with whatever feels real and letting whatever supportive practices I'm using become part of my daily life. These gentle ways of returning to myself have carried me further than I ever expected. So if breathwork walking meditation, or embodied healing speaks to something in you, you can find out more in the show notes about working together. I offer a simple exploratory call where we can look at where you are and what you're working on and how these practices might support your life and your work. But more than anything, I hope you find the practices that help you remember your own presence. They are the doorway into the life that is already waiting for you. So that's been a lot of my road back. And I shared some personal ground in this one. 30 years is a long time to depend on anything. And the journey off of Xanax wasn't a straight line. But I wanted to be honest about it because I know that there's people listening who wonder if they're too far in to ever find their way out. And you're not. What matters is that letting go didn't come first. The practices did. Breathwork, walking, and time in the woods. These things gave me something to stand on and to steady myself. And from that ground, freedom became possible. And the invitation to take a slow, deep breath into your belly or a mindful walk. Maybe try those this week, remembering that they're not asking for performance. They're simply asking you to listen to your body and what comes up for you while you're present with yourself. So thank you for being with me on this vital healing journey as we find our way back to ourselves and back to each other. Until next time.